Your Olympic hero has arrived. It's true, it's true.
You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another episode of Random Thoughts. In today's episode, I want to talk about something that I may or may not have talked about before on the channel. I know I've touched on it lightly, but I don't know if I've done a whole video on it before, so I thought, what the hell, I'll do one here. I actually haven't done a Random Thoughts since September, which astonishes me, because I've been doing a ton of Random Thoughts as of late, I thought. But apparently the last one was in September, so here we go. So what I wanted to talk about today is my stubbornness combined with laziness, and also a certain attachment and sunken cost sort of thing, which all relates to the fact that when it comes to things that I own, I tend to use something until it is completely unusable. I don't typically like to upgrade things. I don't really see the point most of the time. I don't need all the bells and whistles, and I don't need everything to be super nice. For instance, when Blu-ray came out, I was incredibly stubborn and stuck with DVDs for several years after Blu-ray came out, and didn't even get a Blu-ray player until someone bought me a Blu-ray by mistake, and then gifted me a Blu-ray player because I didn't have a way to play the thing. That thing in question being Red vs. Blue Season 11. I remember I got it for Christmas one year because I would get Red vs. Blue for Christmas every year for a while, but again, that's a whole other tangent. But they got it on Blu-ray, and I didn't have a Blu-ray player. But then I think it was my brother gave me his old Blu-ray player, which actually was on my desk in my old room before we moved. Before I got my own place, on my desk near the window where I had the little TV and I had the modded Xbox set up, is where I kept that standalone Blu-ray player. Now, I got it before we actually lived in that house. I've had this Blu-ray player for years. It's actually sitting on a box in the closet right now in the other room, and I haven't used it in quite some time. It's not the best Blu-ray player, it's a Magnavox, but it's one that I had for a while. Anyway, the story I was going to with where I had it set on the desk, apparently some Coke or something spilled under it at one point. I mean, knowing me, it was likely Dr. Pepper, because I drink a shitload of Dr. Pepper, as you guys know. But I didn't know about it, and then it kind of fused to the desk. And so for a long time, it was just stuck to the desk, and I even did a mention of it in a video once where I'm like, now it has become one with the desk. But then when I got my own house and moved out, we did actually get it off that desk. We actually got rid of that desk, because I don't really have a place to put it here, and I don't really have a use for it anymore. But we did get the Blu-ray player to eventually separate from the desk, so like I said, now it's in a box in the closet. But suffice to say, the only reason I ever got a Blu-ray player is because somebody gave it to me. And the only reason somebody gave it to me is because somebody gave me a Blu-ray. Now, obviously, Blu-ray nowadays is my main format that I purchase, at least for personal use. When it's something I want to do a red-eye theater of, I have to get a DVD because my computer doesn't have a Blu-ray drive. I mean, hell, let's talk about my computer, right? It was built many years ago. Maybe getting close to 10 years even. I don't think it's been quite that long, but it's probably getting kind of close. Maybe 7 or 8. It might not quite be at that 10 threshold, but I've had it for quite a few years. And it wasn't originally mine, it was my brother Kyler's. He built it, and eventually I bought it from him when he upgraded. I've told this story a few times, but this computer has Windows 7. I like Windows 7. Windows 7 is no longer supported. There's a lot of things that have become increasingly irritating with that. Steam said that it would get rid of all my games, right? That it would make it so I couldn't play it and would be unusable. So far, that's not true. So far, Steam's been working just fine. In fact, I've done most of the games that I've streamed. In fact, I think all of the games that I've streamed using Steam. Well, no, not all. Fallout 3 I played before. But the point is, a lot of the games that I've streamed on Steam were after Steam supposedly wouldn't work anymore with it. So, at the time being, it still does, but, one day it probably won't, because, eventually they'll completely phase it out. But I like Windows 7, and I don't want to upgrade, so I'm stubborn as hell, and I still have it. I edit all my videos with Microsoft Movie Maker. This is not an ideal movie video editing software, right? But I'm stubborn, and I've always had it and used it, and it's worked for me just fine. Obviously, there's a lot of limitations to it, because you can't really do a whole hell of a lot with Movie Maker. But it gets the job done. And I've never seen a reason to upgrade any of these things because, again, I can make the kind of content I want to make. I can have the kind of fun I want to have. That's why I hate, with things getting more and more advanced, and I've ranted about that in other videos as well, where things want you to have, like, all sorts of apps on your phone just to do regular, everyday things. Like, there's an app for shit with my work, which, again, I don't have the app. I just use the fucking computer at work when I want to, like, schedule time off or check my schedule or things like that. But I've mentioned before, I didn't even have a smartphone until 2017. I had a flip phone. Now, I did have a tablet starting in, like, 2015, maybe 2016. But the tablet is how I recorded a lot of my videos in Gen 2 and parts of Gen 3 of the channel, before I would eventually get my smartphone in 2017, which was just a hand-me-down. In fact, all of my smartphones have been hand-me-down, so I think being a cheap bastard goes into this too. But, like, all of my phones have been hand-me-downs. Whenever a phone just stops working, I'll go to one of my relatives and be like, hey, do you have an old phone I can get from you? I mean, hell, I got this computer, which, again, I bought from my brother. He didn't just give it to me. I bought it from him so he could make his new one because he needed money to upgrade. But I also have these monitors, one of which is an old TV, and it used to be my main monitor. I actually haven't used it in a while because when I'm streaming and I'm on Discord and OBS are really weird with the dual monitor setup as far as screen sharing if I want to do a video or a stream where me and the guys in Discord are all watching the same video together and reacting to it, or responding to it, or what have you. But unfortunately, like I said, that doesn't seem to work in dual monitor mode. But I have another monitor that was given to me, and that TV was also given to me. And I used them both for a while. Like, I used the old TV for years, and it had shit resolution. It wasn't even the proper resolution. I had it set to a weird setting where the sides were cut off with 2 black bars on the side, but it still got the job done. I didn't get an Xbox One for a long time until I was given one as a gift for one of my birthdays at some point. Like, I was using a 360, and I was buying late 360 games that were also on Xbox One, so, they had multiple discs. And you would have to install part of them, kind of like you had to do with the GTA 5 on the 360 version. The newest car that I ever owned was a 2008, and that was the previous car that I owned. My current car is a 2002. I've never been one for spending a ton of money on cars. The most I've ever spent on a car is $6,000. The least that I spent on a car was like $500. My Jeep Grand Cherokee that I used to have, I spent like $500 on, but then we had to do like $140 worth of repairs to make it work. But the point is I don't need all this fancy new shit. I like to just use the shit that works. For me, it's all about functionality rather than being like all snazzy and having all the bells and whistles. And like I said, I'm also a cheap bastard. I have a capture card that I've had for a good 6 or 7 years. 7 years, I think, actually, because I think I started streaming in 2017. And, it has its problems. It constantly disconnects, and I gotta, like, fuck with it and make it work. But, it still gets the job done. And I've had this computer, like I said, slightly longer than that, most likely. But, again, probably around the same time. But it gets the job done. And then my Xbox One, for a long time, started having problems because I had an original model Xbox One. Eventually, the disk drive went out on it. So then I got Game Pass, which, by the way, I refused to get Game Pass for a very long time because I don't like the idea of it, because the cynical side of me is like, if everyone buys Game Pass, then that's going to be the only way to play games, is if you pay a subscription service to play them. Like, I think long run, that is kind of still the end game for some of these companies. Prior to having a smartphone, like I said, I did have the tablet, but before that I also had my iPod Touch, which I think was like a Generation 2. It didn't even have a camera in it yet. And I did a whole Tales from the Drive-Thru about it. I used to take that piece of shit to work with me and listen to music by putting it in a cup to kind of amplify the sound because I didn't have headphones. And speaking of headphones, I always buy the cheapest fucking headphones. I buy like $30 headphones and then I use them until they're unusable or I lose them. Which, by the way, I was losing them at work and I thought they were getting stolen. Turns out somebody was just putting them in a drawer in the desk in the office. And it was a drawer that I never thought to check. I checked all sorts of other places, but one day I checked that drawer to look for, like, I think I was looking for a pen or I was looking for, like, whiteout or something simple, and I open this middle drawer, and in it I see 2 pairs of headphones that I'm like, wait a minute, these are mine. This one's been in here for like a year. This one's been in here for like 6 months. And so eventually I got them back. So I have them now, which is good because the other pair that I had stopped working, or at least one of the headphones stopped working in it. I had a red JLab headphone that the right side stopped working, and then the left side was getting increasingly shitty. And then I had some Skull Candy ones I bought to replace that were better, but then both of them stopped working. I mean, look, when you buy cheap-ass headphones, I guess you get what you pay for, but I've got my old JLabs back, and those are the ones that I currently use when I'm at work. But when it comes to actually, like, upgrading or replacing stuff, like I said, part of it is stubbornness, where I don't want to stop using something that works. Another part of it is, you know, a sunken cost thing. It's like, well, I've been using this so long, why stop now? But another thing is also that I'm lazy, and so it's an inconvenience to replace or upgrade it. But another thing is also that I'm also cheap. But again, I like this aspect where I actually keep these things because I get more use out of them than a lot of people would. I mean, when I put this computer ensemble together, this keyboard is literally one I bought for $5 at a thrift store. And it's a great keyboard. It's just like the ones we used in the call center back when I worked at Geek Squad. And then I've got this blue Snowball mic. I've got this, I use Audacity to record shit, which is free. I use Movie Maker to edit shit, which is free. I use OBS to stream shit, which is free. Again, I'm a cheap bastard. But yeah, I never understand people's compulsion to constantly, like, upgrade things. Like, my phone works just fine right now. I mean, the battery life's kind of shit, but, I mean, as long as I have a charger on me, that's not an issue. Usually the battery lasts a few hours, and then it starts to drain. But, point is, I use things until they are not usable. For instance, I had a Samsung Galaxy S9, right? The screen started being pretty bad, and my dad had another one that he wasn't using that was an S10. So I used that for a while until it literally stopped working because I kept dropping. I drop my phones a lot, which is another reason why I don't really feel too keen on getting a really nice one or a new one. Because it just kind of happens. Like, granted, I usually have them in OtterBoxes, but eventually my OtterBoxes always get destroyed. And even though OtterBox has, like, kick-ass warranties where you can literally just call them and get it replaced, every time it's happened, I've just bought a cheap case because I'm fucking lazy and don't want to call them. And I literally would be on Amazon and order a cheap case. So that's what happened with a few of them. This current phone still has an OtterBox. If this OtterBox completely shatters, I should try to actually do the warranty thing sometime, because it's fucking stupid that I don't. Because the cheap cases do not provide anywhere near the same level of protection. Now granted, I do not have the same record of destroying phones as King Cobra JFS. That motherfucker is insane with how much he smashes his phones with how angry he gets. It's funny, though. But again, I also tend to do things in ass-backwards ways. I mean, when I stream emulators, it's typically from one of my modded Xboxes, either one of my modded original Xboxes or my modded 360. So that's how I play emulators a lot, even though I have a computer that could easily play emulators. I'm just, number one, paranoid about ROM sites and getting viruses. Number two, I'm lazy and don't want to have to search for them. And number three, I don't know, I'm weird and prefer to play on console, right? So I do use my modded Xboxes whenever I play emulators, but whenever I play like a Pokemon ROM hack, I literally buy a physical cartridge of the ROM hack online, and then I play it on my Retron 5. Like I said, I do things in such a weird and ass-backwards way that even I don't fully understand sometimes, but it's the way I do things, and I'm a stubborn fuck. Anyway, I hope this really rambly and stupid episode of Random Thoughts was entertaining, at least to you guys. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. Toodles.
What am I watching? I don't know, but I hate it.
Subscribe to Fiji Red Eye.